Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to another StarCraft 2 video. Now what I got for you today is a classic matchup of professional Terran versus Zerg. Both of these players have been around for years in the pro scene and of course they are still at the tippity top of the highest level of StarCraft 2. Now, if you've been watching my YouTube channel over the last few years, you know that I'm a massive fanboy of both of these players, so I don't really have a preference as far as who wins this one goes, but I am really excited to see who is the current better player. Anyways, before I fanboy onwards, let's go ahead and get started by introducing them. Spawning here in the bottom left-hand corner of Lost and Found LE, and playing with the blue Zerg drones. He's from South Korea, he plays for Splice. We're currently looking in the main base of Solar. And his opponent spawning in the top right-hand corner. He recently switched over to a new team called O Gaming. I'm sure that a lot of my French viewers in particular are familiar with them, but they're basically a French esports organization. But he's playing with the red Terran SCVs. He's considered to be the strongest macro player on the planet. And he goes, of course, by the name of Innovation. I was really quite impressed when they announced that O Gaming obviously picked up Innovation. I mean, the thing is, Innovation, he's won a premier event every single year of his pro gaming career so far. The man is an absolute monster. He's widely considered to be the most dominant StarCraft 2 player of all time. And, you know, while maybe he's not looking like he's at the very, very highest level right now, he's always been a very reliable player. He's always going to perform well. There's never going to be a day where Innovation plays poorly. Now, the thing is, I called this a classic matchup of Zerg versus Terran, and the reason for that is because both of the players in this game actually are very well known for their macro-based styles. When I think of Solar, I mean, I know he's perfectly capable of cheesing, but usually he will be the one that plays a very macro-focused style, in particular in game number 1 of series. And while Innovation, he's always really been known for his more macro-focused styles as well. I mean, like I said, he's widely considered to be one of the very best when it comes to macro. Over the last year or so, he's been mixing it up a lot more. I've been seeing him cheese, or I've been watching him cheese in a whole lot of the GSL games, for example. I've been seeing him go for double factory play with reactors and go Cyclone Hellion. He's been going for a lot of Proxy barracks shenanigans as well. Usually, he does like to play that macro style. Already, though, Solar sneaking that third base out. But usually, Innovation does like to go for that macro style, but he might very well mix it up at a later point during the series, and so might Solar. I guess only time will tell, but let's have a look at these first couple of units, fight it out. One of the reasons, by the way, why a lot of Zerg players now go for a really quick third base before the Reaper even really arrives is because then they can go ahead and spend that first energy of the Queen and the Natural on a creep tumor. And this is one of those more recent developments in StarCraft 2's metagame. Basically, if you get that first tumor out really early, not only can you connect your bases, but you can defend both Hellions as well as Marines and whatnot, depending on what the follow-up from Terran is going to be, a whole lot easier. Zerg players over the last year or so have become phenomenal at their creep spread, and you know, Solar, of course, is not going to be slowing down on that creep spread either. Continuously, at the very least, that's what I'm expecting, we're going to be seeing those creep tumors move across the map. In the meantime, though, over in Innovation's main, we do see that one barracks, one factory, one starport opener, very, very classic. He's leaving that barracks on the tech lab for a little while longer, and there indeed we do see now that stim pack upgrade coming up. No scout just yet here from Solar. Wouldn't be surprised if he's going to move that one forward in just a little bit, but here are the first couple of Hellions. Now, one thing that a lot of Zerg players do these days, and this has been really common over like the last year or so, is get a ton of queens. Queens, and this is a statistic of the queen that I originally did not know about. Queens have an anti-air range of 9. Now, to put that in perspective, the attack range of a Colossus with extended thermal lance is also 9. So basically what I'm trying to say is that one of the early game units of Zerg has pretty much the same range, at the very least to air, when it comes to one of the last, units that a Protoss can go ahead and produce. Queens are absolutely phenomenal at pretty much everything in the early game. Now these Hellions, though, they are setting themselves up for a bit of a nice position, actually. These Queens caught off guard. Here I am, hyping up the queens, and all of a sudden those Hellions arrive. Queens out of position, even though that Overlord scouted where those Hellions were located. This is definitely gonna cost Solar a couple of the drones. Hellions now moving up into that main base. A couple of them have already fallen, but that's 7 drones, 10 drones there in total already. Not bad whatsoever. I do think that eventually this should be cleaned up, but that is one of the downsides of queens as well. While they are absolutely amazing at picking off pretty much everything, they aren't super fast. In particular off creep, of course, but on creep even, they aren't particularly fast, and you do have to put them out in the correct location, because otherwise you might end up losing a whole lot of your workers. Now, one thing that that Solar does get out of this is that he knows that there's not really going to be a really big push coming anytime soon. I mean, Innovation, of course, just sacrificed 6 or so Hellions and then a Reaper as well. It's a massive indication that there's not really going to be like a really aggressive follow-up, you know, planned either. So at the very least, Solar can follow this up with the majority of his workers right now. But there's no denying that 10 drones for a oh, nice little play there actually. But 10 drones for a group of, I believe, 6 Hellions and a Reaper is definitely a trait that Terran players will take any day of the week, because it allows them to either force an all-in from the Zerg player, but at the very least they can go for that 3rd orbital command and play that more macro-focused style. Innovation now going for the 1-1 upgrades. He's getting himself the combat shield now that Stim Pack has finished up. At the very least, I'm pretty sure it has. There we go. And more barracks are coming up. So Innovation is going to be playing that macro style. He gets to play the version of the meta game that he is very, very, very comfortable with. Solar, though, not all to phase by this. He's going to continue onwards with the creep spread for a little while longer. One of my own experiences on this map is that usually in the mid game, it's going to be all about this terrain over here. It's going to be all about this. Usually Zerg players will take their 4th over on this area, and the 3rd is going to be all creeped up. This is a difficult push to hit for Terran. However, this side of the map is much easier to hit, and since Zerg will usually take their 5th over in this area, controlling this spot is really important. Usually Terrans will start slow pushing towards this region of the map, and if they can pick off the 5th, usually they can go after the 4th as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to be seeing some contest on that side of the map as well. Innovation, though, now moving forward with 2 Medevacs here. They're loaded up with Marines. A little bit of uncharacteristic sloppiness, although he does get all of the Marines once again as well. No man left behind. And while eventually these Medevacs are once again going to try and unload, one of the Marines will not live to tell the tale. But so far, Solar manages to deflect that. No 4th command center just yet. Alright, there we go. I was going to say, Innovation seems to be a little bit late on that, but he's going to prioritize some more units for a little while longer, going for the 2-2 upgrades before starting up the 4th CC. There we go. He's also stemming forward with those Marines. This is basically just a hit squad to try and slow down that creep spread. In the meantime, in the main base, we do see a single Liberator picking up 5 kills there in total. But this is what Innovation does, right? He's going to start scanning, and he's going to try and slow down this creep spread to the best of his abilities. Solar, and this is like one of the weird meta games of StarCraft. I remember StarCraft 2 back in the day. It was all about making one big army and then, you know, clashing once, and that was basically the end of it. Right now, we have all of these mini games going on inside of the actual game. Right, look at this. Solar is like, this is like the creep spread mini game that we're seeing right now. These pushes are not meant to really kill anything. They're just here to try and slow this Zerg player down. However, at the same time, the queens are still out to try and obviously recuperate those creep spread losses. And all things considered, both players sort of have this gentleman's agreement where they're right now going to transition towards bigger and bigger armies. 4th CC now, though, coming up, we see that that additional group of 3 barracks following this as well. Wouldn't be surprised if all of those are going to have some tech labs. Usually either ghost transitions or just simply more marauders are going to be the name of the game here for Innovation. In the meantime, though, we see Solar transitioning towards the infestation pit and likely the hive here in just a second here as well. It's kind of funny how this is like it's a very classic game of ZVT. It's literally exactly what I hot pickup there. It's literally exactly what I hope this would be like. The thing is, while some players may find this boring to watch, right? Because it's like, oh, Lowko, it's the same game every time. You know how difficult it is to play this kind of stuff? Like the skill level required to continuously play this from both sides is absolutely insane. Anyways, Tech Labs have been added on. Innovation is going to follow this up with more and more Marauders. Marauders are going to be pretty good against pretty much everything. In particular, of course, Ultralisk and whatnot are sort of blindly countered just by going for these for a little while longer. But this is the kind of game that I personally really enjoy watching. And while if you don't play the game very much, you might look at this and be like, oh, every game is the same. But this is what gets me really excited. All right, here we go. So now that we have got the first 10 minutes out of the way, we see finally a big force moving across the map. One siege tank, no, not siege stop. The one in the back, though, dealing a lot of damage already. As soon as the Lings and Banes depleted, the Queens and the Hydras are gonna go back home as well. Nice pickup here by Innovation, who will be able to kill a lot of those units for practically free. But this is really where the game starts, right? The first 10 minutes, mostly just a gentleman's agreement. Right now is where we can start seeing those differentiation, or these different strategies really come to fruition. Now, we do see one Viking here on the left-hand side as well, trying to pick up whatever it can. Another base will not be taken. Solar already up to 6 hatcheries at this point. He's going to try and just simply flood the map with more and more expansions. He might lose one, sure, that's not an issue, because he can just rally all of his units over towards another area as well. Innovation, though, now realizes that there is a base in the top left-hand corner. He's going to pull his opponent thin here as well, right? He's trying to pull this Zerg player apart. Having some medevacs here near the bottom end of the map, that means that all of a sudden, near the north, these units can drop off for practically free. He's gonna likely drop off in a location where Zerg can't really easily see it, or in this case, he's not gonna do so. He's just simply gonna drop right on top of the hatchery, and he will force the cancel. It's these little moves that are so cute, right? So it was threatening a big push here near the bottom, but in reality, the real damage was done in the top left-hand corner. This is where it becomes a lot more strategic and a lot more about chess. Now remember, this area of the map, it is critical that Zerg does not lose the creep over in this area. Still though, a couple of siege tanks here on siege. Marines and Marauders will be forced to stim backwards there. A lot of banelings going into the tank, and not really what you want as a Zerg player, and Innovation easily pushes through that. That was super clean. He easily pushes through that. Now, this is a very Marauder-heavy army. Can't help but notice that we already see that Greater Spire just about to finish up here. A couple of Vipers now also joining the battlefield. Reinforcing Zerglings might be able to just barely surround the majority of this army, and with these Hydras coming in from the north, they will be able to force this army to go back home. At the same time, though, these two medevacs that were in the top left-hand corner have now moved over towards the third base location. Mostly here just to once again force this Zerg player back, and at the very least prevent Solar from making that move out across the map. Innovation are also taking a bit of a trickier base. Taking a 5th on this map as Terran is a difficult thing to do. Apparently Innovation has decided he wants to expand sort of, you know, down this southern part. You gotta keep in mind though, there's obviously no planetary at the third base location, so this can get awkward really, really fast. Once again though, a lot of these tanks unsieged. I wonder if this is like one of the recent developments in Innovation ZVT, purposefully leaving them unsieged just to try and soak some baneling hits or something along those lines. I guess it takes like 7 banes to kill one siege tank, so that's gonna be a worthwhile trade, at the very least when it comes to that kind of math. Planetary Fortress, though, should be able to deflect these Zerg units here for the time being, but here's the real threat. 6 Brute Lords are now being morphed in. Solar is not going for the Ultra style, which is what we see so very often. Instead, he's now going for the Brute Lords. Now, Brute Lords are very slow. Drop play becomes a lot more prevalent when Brute Lords are usually spotted, but there's no denying that in a straight-up engagement, Solar is gonna have a really good time. As long as he can defend the heavy drop style continuously here, and Innovation, I mean, he's not done just yet, right? But as soon as he gets rid of most of those drops, he's gonna be in a really, really nice spot. Here come the Brutes. They will be scouted here very shortly. Another base will also be spotted here. Now, keep in mind, those are very close together. But here are the Brute Lords. They're going to immediately throw their Brutelings forward. Blinding Cloud, not quite activated there, but there's still a lot of units there taking damage. Parasitic Bomb on all of those medevacs, bringing a lot of them to low HP, making it easy for those Hydras to pick them off as well. And if there's one thing that Brute Lords are really good at, is of course, picking up planetary fortresses. They were going to go after the fort, but now instead they're going to go after the new base here in the bottom right-hand corner instead. This base will be picked up before the Brutes even arrive. At the same time, though, the Marines are still going to town here near the left-hand side of the map, but they are once again forced to pick up. Marines and Marauders now in that medevac. They're gonna try and, you know, just continue dropping here for a little while longer, but at the same time, the Brute Lords are moving forward. Now, he does need to be careful. Ghosts are coming up. Innovation is setting up, he is setting himself up for that switch. No Vikings just yet, instead continuing onwards with more and more of those things. And oh my god, that's so sexy. Parasitic Bomb deals a lot of damage. That's 120 damage there. On just a handful of those medevacs, but since they already were lower in HP, they're gonna take a huge amount of damage. Medevacs once again forced to pick up. Units here in the main base completely abandoned. They're looking for evac, they're not gonna get it. The Brute Lords though, still moving across the map. There's a lot of additional Vikings that have been added on. There's a couple of Ghosts here available as well. They do have some energy, but there's no denying that this is not a spot that you want to be in if you are the Terran player. A lot of Banelings are actually being morphed in at a very vulnerable location. I don't know if I agree with that one right there. That seems a little bit too greedy by Solar. He is going to end up losing the vast majority of those Banelings. And while the Brute Lords are still alive, or at the very least 3 of them, they are running very, very low. It looks like Solar was overestimating the advantage that he was in. A lot of reinforcing Zerg units now moving forward as well. However, there's still a lot of bio. Marine Marauder Medevac with Ghost support, not to be underestimated. A lot of those units got picked up for practically free, and what was previously a massive advantage here in favor of Solar, all of a sudden looks like something that all of a sudden looks like something that Innovation can easily take back. Now, one thing we do have to keep in mind is that Innovation hasn't had a lot of economy here for a while, right? I mean, his main and his natural, they will be running very low here already. He did now finally secure another 5th base, which is absolutely critical. These Marines would just barely be able to get on out of there. Medevac practically, you know, duct taped together at this point. Very, very low in HP. In the meantime, though, a massive ball of Terran units has now moved over towards that 7th base of the Zerg. Obviously, he doesn't want to lose it, but it's not that big of a deal. He's still got a lot of other units coming up. Brute Lords once again morphing in. That's 10 Brute Lords, 11 Brute Lords. He knows that Ghosts are good, but if you got enough units out, I guess if you get enough Brutes, those units are going to be able to deal a phenomenal amount of damage. There's also still that Viper. It will be able to go ahead and use some of its abilities. Now, these Marines and Marauders are going to go down very, very easily. But is there enough here for the Terran player to actually snipe down all of those Brute Lords? One Blinding Cloud making the AI bug out on all of those Bio Army units as well. Banelings now rolling forward too. They're getting a really decent connection, but the cloaking has now been activated. That means that these Ghosts are going to try and close the distance. Still, that's a lot of Brutelings scouting here what is going on and blocking the pathing for these Ghosts. Still, the snipes are not coming up, and they are phenomenal. Ghost, of course, not cheap whatsoever, though. You don't really want to lose him if you are the Terran player at this point in time. Transfuse is coming around from those Queens that were still left over after the early game settled down. In the meantime, in the top left-hand corner, we see the Marines stimming forward. That is that 1 HP medevac that is duct taped together. Those Marines are definitely going to be able to pick up the base if Zerg units don't get over there really fast. Brute Lords now, though, they're still alive. A lot of Queens have managed to transfuse them. They are still left over from the early game. But the base in the top left-hand corner died. The one over at the 7 base location also got picked up. And while this was all going on, right, Innovation was macroing behind this. Because, of course, it's Innovation. He does such things. Base floating now towards the bottom right-hand corner. We see another command center being taken here for Innovation as well. Question is there going to be enough left over right now for our Terran player in red to defend against this massive push that's moving across? Supply-wise, both players are pretty much even, but there's definitely a massive army here for Zerg. Gotta be careful, though. Obviously, fighting on a planetary fortress can easily go in his disadvantage. Well, that's 18 SCVs there for practically free. A couple of Banelings only. Looks like Innovation, rather than fighting the main army, has decided to leave the Ghost at home, and he is now moving across the map with a lot of his medevacs instead. This is a pretty scary army. Of course, this is still a, you know, a fully upgraded Zerg force as well. Adrenal Glands is going to be phenomenal in these kind of locations. A lot of Banelings now rolling forward as well, and that does force the pickup once again. Innovation doesn't really miss pickups, right? It's so sick. He's so good at, like, somehow looking at all of that. I mean, sure, he did lose 24 SCVs, and that's not great, but considering he's microing like 3 fights at once, he loses a surprising, you know, a surprising little amount of medevacs. Well, it's still 25 in total. What I'm trying to say is that your average run-of-the-mill pro gamer that's playing Terran in this scenario would have probably lost like 40. Anyway, once again, those Marines moving forward, this time around they will be met with a bunch of acid, and they do go down into, well, I guess the ground. I don't really know exactly where do they go. Where do Terran go? Where do Terran units go when they die? Guess nobody knows. That's a lot of banelings, though. This is actually pretty interesting. We haven't really seen a lot of Zergling player in the late game anymore from Zerg. I mean, he's got pretty much as many banelings as Zerglings most of the time, it feels like, in these big engagements. Still going for the brutes. I actually really like this. That's still a scary amount of ghosts, though. These ghosts are going to be able to deal a lot of damage. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, we do see a handful of Zerglings making their way across. Reinforcing Marines should be able to ward them away for the time being. But this is going to be one of the game-deciding moments. Terran needs to keep this base up and running. If he loses this engagement, he's likely going to lose the base in the bottom right-hand corner as well. The one that was over here previously at the 5th base has been picked off. That means that Innovation's final lifeline is really the base over here. Now, since this is not a planetary fortress, he can't really leave all of the units from that location either. He's got to be very careful with where he positions this army. Innovation decides to go back for a little while longer. Starts researching a tactical nuke. That feels like a bit of a desperation move in my mind, right? Crossing your fingers and hoping you're going to land the nuke is a difficult thing to do. And while this Terran army is busy scanning ahead, trying to pick up a couple of those creep tumors, Zerg has now moved over towards the bottom right-hand corner. That's an additional 19 SCVs. Innovation is now practically all in. He's trying to get a good engagement off. While these ghosts, they're gonna be able to lay down some snipes. There we go. Those snipes will be able to pick up those brute lords for practically free. Another hatchery does go down here as well. Marines now also stepping forward, trying to get a decent connection. Banelings looking to connect with all of those ghosts too. And I think that there's just a little bit too much Zerg left over. Solar is rolling over this army, literally. And while he did lose a base there in the process, he's preventing his opponent from really mining. It looks like the 3rd base location was floated over towards that 5th. But while this is all going on, right, yeah, Solar is the one who is still mining. He was still sitting on 66 workers versus only 18 SCVs. And that means that in game number 1, Solar is the one who obtains the victory. I gotta say, as a Zerg player myself, I really like that Brute Lord switch in the previous game rather than Ultralisks. Although it looks like we can no longer talk about that because this game is gonna get started off very aggressively. Okay. Yeah, so setting out an SCV this early on, in particular in this direction, it can really only mean one thing. This is going to be a proxy barracks style with a 2nd SCV joining in here as well. So here's the thing. Innovation of old, he would have never done this. Whenever Innovation was behind, he would always play the macro game. Because he was known for the macro game, he was very strong at the macro game, and he still is. But he also became a little predictable, right? His opponents started cutting so many corners. They would just simply double expand, for example, and just play super greedy because they knew that he wouldn't really be doing anything in the early game either. Innovation of old would have not done this. He's showing us that he's a changed man. Apparently, he's gonna go for a cheese in a best-of-3 series. Now, keep in mind, best-of-3 means that the first player to win 2 games is gonna be the one that wins the entire series. Innovation is putting all of his eggs in one basket. Solar will scout this. He knows that there are going to be at least 2 barracks. Now, you may look at this and be like, wait a second, that seems at a bit of a weird time. Instead, he's actually going to put the Overlord on this high ground. He probably knows that there's going to be a 3rd one out there somewhere as well. This is so cheeky as well, though, right? Rather than putting all of the barracks together, which is what pretty much everyone would do, he's decided to put the one over here near this. Oh my god, this is going to go wrong. I mean, those drones are being pulled here. Solar pulled a few, which is all fine and dandy, but like, there's the one over here near the south. That one is going to rally in really easily, and while sure the production on the 3rd barracks there was halted for a little while longer, I think this actually benefits the Terran player more with this many drones not mining. There we go. He assumed that he shut down the 2nd out of 2 barracks, but instead it's going to be the 3rd. Super cheeky. Now the one, oh, well, this bunker needs to go up though. Yeah, nicely done there by Solar, rallying those drones around. Bunker not done just yet, but there are certainly still a lot of Marines coming up continuously. Link speed, nowhere to be seen here. So no link speed coming up for Solar. Is he going to commit to that? He might need to, but that hatchery is going to finish, or that hatchery is going to be shut down before link speed finishes. Ooh, that SCV though is super low. Marines trying to prevent the Zerglings now from killing that SCV. A couple of drones coming in from the back as well. They're trying to swoop in. Beautiful micro there by Innovation. And I gotta compliment him, right? This is not what Innovation would have done a couple of years ago, but it wins tournaments. I feel like people don't always like cheese, and I kind of see where they come from, but this is part of the game. It doesn't matter if you're playing a quote-unquote, like, fair, solid macro game, right? There's no gentleman's agreement here. They're just here to win games. That's the only thing that matters. Now, the hatchery is already running very, very low. Innovation trying to micro back towards the safety of that second bunker here too. But here come the Zerglings and the drones as well. Queen, of course, gotta be able to pick up that bunker kill with relative ease. Another SCV though was moved across the map. It's gonna be able to repair up and finish the second bunker here too. That means that, oh my god, Innovation picked up a victory. And he evened up the score here. I gotta say, that barracks over here, that was really smart, right? Rather than just building all of them right on one big clump, he made it look as if this was only going to be a double barracks cheese, which basically means that Innovation meant to follow it up. Like, if you see 2 barracks this early on, sure, you know that Terran is going to commit to a push, but it's really only going to be that. It's only going to be a push because they follow it up with a factory and then a command center as well. Instead, though, there was a 3rd barracks hiding there, and he knew the Overlord pattern in which Solar would scout, and he knew that it likely wasn't... I think that Solar probably was able to figure out what was going on when he first saw the timing of these 2 barracks. I think he should have been able to fish out that it was a 3rd, but regardless, that means that Innovation now evened up the score 1-1. Alrighty, and that will bring us to the final game of this best of 3 series. This time around, we are on Dream... Oh, dude, no. Oh, my... Innovation. So people call him the machine. I think he's gonna do the same thing twice in a row. If he sends a second SCV right about right now, this might be something a little different, because he's not... No, he is. People call him the machine because he was playing the same style every single game, and he was really predictable. These days, though, man, it's almost as if he was spending all those years planning for this moment. Innovation is gonna go for a second cheese in a row. After losing the macro game, the game that he's, you know, very comfortable with in game number 1, right? He's now, oh my god, he's even sending a 3rd SCV. This is gonna be an all-out assault, an even more aggressive version than the previous one. He's likely gonna go for a 3rd barracks here a little bit quicker, and then obviously he can follow it up with more of a bunkers. So dirty, and Solar, I mean, he's 17, 18, 17. That means that the spawning pool will come up, but this is unscouted for the time being. He is gonna now re-rally that Overlord for a little while longer. It is, oh my, oh dude, I almost feel a little bad here for Solar. He played a phenomenal game number 1. But right now, Innovation is completely catching him off guard. Now obviously, right, if Solar was truly worried, he knows that his opponent has the image that he's the macro player, right? If he was truly worried, he could have gone pool first, right? He would have been able to shut this down with relative ease. Instead, well, now he sees the, now he knows that something is not right. He sees the angle at which that SCV came in. The SCV is going to be able to start up a bunker. Second drone now pulled off the line here as well. First one went into the hatchery, but the second one, it will find that there is indeed a back-to-back cheese from Innovation. I love this. It really feels as if he spent all those years building up his image of being a super macro and passive focused player. And right now he's like, LOL. Just kidding. So this is what Innovation has been doing over like the last half year or so. It's so dirty. You wouldn't have expected this. I think on paper, Innovation is going to be the stronger player against Solar, but Solar really showing us how strong he truly is in game number 1 there. Oh man, that hatchery is as good as dead already. It looks like there might not even really be a commitment here from Solar to try and defend it. Instead, there's a Roach Warren coming up. I don't really know exactly about that. Roach Warren can be really efficient if you can get yourself a bunch of roaches out, but nice pull here already by Innovation though, making his way into that main base. Now he still has to be careful. A lot of those SCV actually caught at a bit of a weird angle. Now the SCVs from the low ground helping out as well though, and that is really, really nicely done. 3 SCVs, that's the ones that were sent across the map, or those were the ones, I guess, that were sent across the map. 8 drones already, though. Now, roaches are just about to spawn. They can certainly do a lot of damage. That queen will take a beating as well. He's just target firing down the drones. He knows that these roaches are going to eventually be able to clean this up, but that's already 11 drones. Right, and behind this, I mean, he can easily kill the natural. He's got some more units trickling in to try and do exactly that. This is not necessarily game over yet, though. But well, I mean, it's 7 drones. There's 7. Oh god, there's 7 drones remaining. Oh my god. I can already see some of the Zerg players commenting on this video. It's like, oh, it's disgusting. I think it's beautiful. Years ago, I would look at this as well and be like, oh my god, that's disgusting. But really, that is a beautiful play by Innovation. The total mind game. Back to back. Jeez. That is not what I expected. That is not what I expected at all. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. But if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, because I upload pretty much every single day of the week. I think I've got like a 99% success rate or something with uploading every single day. Sometimes I sadly don't get to make a video for, you know, like one day of the week, kind of depending on if something happened in real life, or, you know, if something just simply didn't work out. But regardless, if you are new, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notifications as soon as future videos go live. Special thank you to all of the Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you in the next one.